The NBA is back, and we're not going to overreact to just the first game. We wouldn't do that, although the title might suggest it's an overreaction, but I do believe that this is the first time the Warriors have done this in quite some time, and that is win a game when Steph Curry did not play that well. Yes, I know he ended up with a triple-double. It's still Steph. His gravity was still there. There were certain instances where he didn't touch the ball and he created open looks. We saw all of that. We'll talk about all of that, but still, he still shot 20% from the field. He did not have a Stephen Curry game, and they won. And more importantly, it wasn't just when he was on the floor. When he was actually off the floor, they looked somewhat good. The Warriors actually looked competent, maybe even better than competent when Steph Curry went to the bench. That did not happen last year. If you remember last season, well, their offensive rating was bad. It was like league history really, really bad when Steph was off the floor. And well, in this game, thanks to the second coming of Nikola Jokic, Nemanja Bjelica, and Jordan Poole turning up in the second half, Damian Lee and co., the Warriors looked like a decent to good team without Steph Curry having a monstrous performance, which is kind of scary. That is the scary part about this Warriors performance, and that is the most promising thing to take out of it, that they got a performance like this from everyone else not named Stephen Curry, even add Draymond Green to that mix, who played pretty solidly, but he can play better as well. That's what we need to talk about. Now, before I go any further, I guess if you could drop a like on the video, first game of the season. Come on, just drop a like on the video. The Warriors are 1-0, so I'm going to talk about that. There were some other games that went on, so shout out to the Bucks. I've already talked about them recently. I think they are being overlooked, but they kind of proved that. And well, the Lakers, they'll be good. They'll be fine. But we're here to talk about Golden State because I think the biggest takeaway from the first two games of the season was the Warriors and what they did without Stephen Curry and how they looked as a team because they were playing as a team. That's something that the Warriors have prided themselves on over the last 6 or 7 years. It's been their ability to play as a team, and that's what led them to being so good. Yes, I know, crazy, but that's what they were doing again. They were passing the ball around. They had everyone moving the ball and off-ball movement. Obviously, Steph still created a lot of shots, as I mentioned, so even when Steph shoots 20%, he's really assisting more than he was even given credit for with the triple-double. But they looked like a team that was really aware of what they needed to do, where they needed to be. Bjelica. I tweeted about this in the second quarter because I don't think people were giving it enough credit or at least paying enough attention. He was running point guard for the first couple of minutes of the second quarter and the end of the first quarter. Genuinely, Steph Curry waved him off a couple of times. It's like, no, Nemanja, you do it. I'll play off ball. And that's why he fits this team perfectly. That's what we'll just talk about Bjelica first. We'll talk about this because this is a man who just had a double-double off the bench, finished with 4 assists, played pretty much the entirety of the fourth quarter, had a plus-minus of 20? A plus-minus of 20? I don't always read into plus-minus, but plus 20 is pretty damn good off the bench when you look around the board. He fits this team really damn well because you think about what Draymond Green has been able to do for them as a small ball 5, which is where a lot of their best minutes have come over the last few seasons, and he's been in the death lineup. You get Draymond Green. Obviously, he brings a completely different look defensively because of his versatility and his rim protection, so that's where you get the best out of it. But it's also been his ability to create as a 5 and have the floor spacing around him so he can operate as that point forward / point center. Bjelica can operate in that Green role, except he can space the floor. That's something that has never been in question. That's what we expected. That's what I thought. I'll be honest. I completely overlooked this signing. I thought this is a solid depth signing. He's going to space the floor. He'll get, 10 to 12 minutes a night, and he'll be solid. But from what we've seen so far, they've got bigger plans for Bjelica. And we probably should have seen this coming because Draymond Green actually came out in an interview a few weeks ago, or whenever it was, and he said he was really surprised with what Bjelica was able to do, taking the ball off the floor and really driving and creating. And we already saw that. They gave him a lot of opportunity, and he's going to continue to get opportunity because getting back to why he's perfect, you have a center that can shoot, that can create, that can pass, that can put the ball on the floor. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson comes back, Jordan Poole. These are all guys that are really good off the ball. So there's no reason for him not to be able to create and flourish as someone that can do a little bit more than the average center. Actually, a lot more than the average center based off what we saw in game 1. It's just early days, but we have seen Bjelica be a really productive player at different times in his career. Think back to Sacramento. He averaged 11 points a game, shooting really well from 3, and he's always been a sniper. But now we're starting to see a different element of him, which I think could come out. And if he can consistently do this, which is a lot to ask, he had a double-double off the bench. He had 15, 11, and 4, played every minute of the last quarter. Was probably the most impactful player on the floor for the Warriors. We're not expecting that every game, but if you can get some of this, and just the overall difference in the team already, we're seeing from an IQ standpoint. You look back to last year, Kelly Oubre, he does some things well. We're not here to trash talk him, but he's not exactly the best passer or the best playmaker or decision maker. Andrew Wiggins has started to develop some of those skills and has become better. But you bring in Bjelica, Iguodala comes back, who had a really solid game. He did what Iguodala does, knocked down a couple of open threes, played some good defense at times on Anthony Davis, got a couple of strips. Like, it's Iguodala. He's still the same kind of player. I think we've kind of taken for granted that this man has been one of the most consistent defensive threats and just consistent overall players for so long. Comes back to the Warriors, and you already see the immediate impact. High IQ Bjelica. Even Otto Porter Jr. offers something different to what you had with the likes of Oubre and Michael Mulder and those guys that were rounding out the rotation last year. Kent Bazemore. You've got Damian Lee, who's coming off the bench, similar to Bjelica, didn't skip a minute in the last quarter. So he was playing throughout the fourth quarter as well, and again, was really productive. So this team as a whole is getting back to what Warriors basketball is, which is moving the ball. There was that one play towards the end of the fourth quarter, actually the dagger, Andrew Wiggins hit the dagger. It was Steph Curry passes it to Draymond Green, who passes it to Bjelica, who drives in and kicks out. That's something that wouldn't have happened in the past with a different player in that spot as opposed to Bjelica. No offense to Kevon Looney, who makes some decent plays, but I don't think he's putting the ball on the floor and then making a pass like off the side, kind of a no-look pass to an open shooter. Andrew Wiggins is knocking that down. That's not happening. That's a completely different dimension, and that's what you're getting already from this Warriors team, and they look back to what they can do best. This is without Steph even having a good game, which is why this is the biggest takeaway. Because Steph Curry didn't dominate. The Warriors won against a Lakers team, which, sure, Russell Westbrook's debut was, but that's fine. But still, they had Anthony Davis and LeBron James go off for, a combined 67 points or something, and they didn't win. That's not going to happen very often. That's a sign that the Warriors are a pretty decent team already, and that's without Klay Thompson even coming back, who's going to fit this system in the way they're playing early days to a T as well, because we know Klay, he's always going to be in the right spot at the right time. He makes the right reads. It looks really nice. In terms of some other points worth noting, Jordan Poole, although he had a bit of a quiet first half, a struggle in the first half, let's be completely honest, for what it was in the first half, he did struggle a bit. There was that 2-on-1 play where he stepped back from a three, and I don't know if he even hit the backboard. He might have airballed it, or it didn't hit rim at the very least. Had a couple of shots that were pretty far off from three-point range. Got past his defender on a few occasions, and then just wasn't really able to finish through the physicality of the Lakers, which is going to be a struggle for a lot of players all season long when you've got Anthony Davis, Dwight Howard, LeBron James. It's not an easy team to finish against inside. So I think that size and length kind of put him off early days, and that led to him having a quiet first half and not looking like he did in preseason or towards the end of the second half of last season. But then we saw what we expected, and this is what we're going to get from Jordan Poole. Popped off for 16 points on 6 of 10 shooting in the second half, and was a big reason for the Warriors coming back. Alongside Bjelica, alongside Damian Lee, and what you got from Steph and those guys, he was a huge reason because he decided to flip the switch. And let's keep perspective. This is what's going to happen with someone like Jordan Poole, who hasn't established himself as a star just yet. He's still going to have these games where he really struggles at periods of time. But if he can still stay consistent and stay in the game and end up finishing with 15 to 20 points every single night, well, that's going to be huge. And we saw that. So that's a big promising sign, I'd say, for the Warriors as well. For him to have such a poor first half, then come out in the second half against a team that is going to be one of the best defenses in the league. So for him to come out and still finish the night with 20 points on a game where it was probably a little bit of an off night for him, that's saying something about his development as well. Overall, there's a lot of positives to take out from the Warriors' perspective. They looked a little bit sloppy in the first half, but that's to be expected the first half of the regular season, and that's going to happen. Steph and Jordan Poole weren't playing their best, and then you had guys like Draymond still feeling their way into the game, but the man Nemanja Bjelica really flipped the switch. Let's not say he's going to be a complete game changer just yet, but if this is anything to go off, he could be a complete game changer. We're not going to overreact, but putting up those kind of numbers, having that kind of impact, just running the floor, it shows the confidence the Warriors have in him, and for good reason. He repaid that confidence pretty much every way possible in this first game. That's my takeaway from the first game anyways. It might not seem like a major win or a major result, But for the Warriors to come out and win the game with Steph Curry not having a Steph Curry-like performance where he was putting up 35 points a game routinely last season, and particularly when they were winning, it was as a result of him putting up damn near 40 points in a lot of those games. That's a big improvement on last year, and that's without Klay Thompson. So good sign so far for a team that I expect to be right up there yet again and be one of the best teams in the NBA yet again. So yeah, pretty cool. Anyways, have a good day.